Diaz checking with today's dose of the dime. Thank you for tuning in to the Bachelor News Radio Network. You got me, your hostess, for the next 30 minutes or so we could talk about some things that are very important to your life. So let's get into it. Thank you for joining me. You could have been anywhere else, but you're here with me. And so if you want to get into the fun, if you want to join in, jump in, down 646-929-0130, or you can tune in and watch us live on thebatchelornews.airtime.pro. All of my broadcasts should be there. And if you are interested, please know that we do have a social media group for a Dose of the Dime radio show where we talk about different things on the radio, different things about relationships. And that is my goal, is ultimately to help you work through the drama and the static of life and relationships. So a little bit of introduction about me, because I'm realizing that we're reaching a brand new audience, is I am actually a licensed master of social work. So I'm a currently practicing counselor, and I actually do have a practice here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My goal is to, again, make sure that everybody is here for the relationship, here for love, here to get and be empowered by those things that are so very wonderfully empowering. Like, love. I love love. What can you do without that? Okay. So I do have a social media group on Facebook. It's called a Dose of the Dime Radio Show, where we talk about different things. A lot of hot topics on there, including one that we're going to talk about today. So hold tight for that one. Okay. So I do want to also say that I also have a website, www.thedjdime.com, and where you can look at my different podcasts, different blogs, and, just check me out. And if you like what you see, always hit me up and let me know what you want to talk about, whether it be different comments, concerns, questions about relationships. And today's topic actually came as a question, or more so as a how do I heal? We talk about healing all the time, but we don't ever really talk about how it is we get to that point where we start healing. So basically, we're going to continue on our journey into relationships. We're just going to take a small detour today. So let's talk about what we've been talking about. Last week, we talked about, definitely, it's been on topic with relationships, like how to create one, how to keep one, how to maintain one, and basically, definitely, how to let one go. And the different types of relationships. So last week, it was a hot topic. We talked about submission and what it's not, because it's kind of gotten a bad rap over the years. And basically, we want to make sure that it gets a better rap than what it's been getting, because unfortunately, submission is not necessarily a sign of weakness for a female or a male, if a male is submissive as well. It is honestly, to me, a power move, but I understand that everybody is different and everybody's, moves or ways of dealing with things are different. So honestly, I totally agree why and understand why people would kind of turn their nose up or turn away from submission. Some people don't even like the word submission. So interestingly enough, we had another conversation basically on the social media site where we talked about is a spouse entitled to sex? And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll give you my take and my spin on that. And we will talk about what the different comments talk, because it was a juicy one. Okay. So last week we talked about submission. And this week we're going to shift gears. We're going to talk about how to heal. And we're going to talk about shadow work. That has been kind of like a big hot topic, red button word for a while now. There's a spiritual TikTok where they talk about doing shadow work. And then there's, this term has been thrown around for a while. And it's basically a $10 word because not too many people know what it means. So let's just get to the meat of it. It's actually real stuff. It's not BS. It's not like, oh, they're toxic. Oh, my God. No, this is real stuff. So C.G. Jung, which is one of, I'm a social worker, so I follow a lot of the different theories. But he's the person that founded analytical psychology. And analytical psychology is a real interesting topic, and it talks about the 5 archetypes. But dealing with shadow work in this thing, it talks about how our emotions function. And I think emotions kind of get a bad rap. Okay, so hear me out. We know there are positive emotions like love, like joy, like pride, like, when it is that we get to a space where everything is wonderful and beautiful, those are our positive emotions. But our negative emotions get a bad rap. Our fear, our especially after dealing with the trauma, with the fear, the jealousy, the hesitation towards things. But do understand, do know that it's not, emotions are made to protect us. And that's where our shadow self lies. So hear me out. If you are walking down the street and you see a snake, and if your emotions were cognizant enough to protect you, guess what? You're probably going to get bit by the snake. Our emotions are there to keep us in alignment. That is dangerous, walk away, or that is dangerous, pull back. Our emotions are not there to sabotage us, although we allow them to. So emotions are not necessarily there to be a crutch for you. It's more so to kind of actually meant to protect you. Right? Okay, so moving forward, what is a shadow self? Okay, so the shadow self, in the blueprint, that is you. You got your good positive things that you are really focused on, like, this is who I am. I am loving. I'm compassionate. I'm driven. I'm independent. I'm faithful. I'm poised. I'm fair. I'm strong. I'm determined. These are the wonderful, beautiful things that you have about yourself, right? Okay. These are the things that we put forth in a relationship. Like when we're dealing with our representative, we put those things out front. These are the things, the positive things about yourself, right? These are things that you promote in a job interview, right? Okay, so when you deal with that, that is your positive self. But there is that flip side of us, the shadow side. It's the side that we don't want to really talk about. It's the side that, the reason why we sabotage ourselves, or the reason why we sabotage relationships, it's those things that we feel, but we don't want to talk about. Like, it's our fears. Our fears that no one loves us, or our fears that you are a burden, or our fears that it's weird. Okay, so the insecurity, it's the self-hatred, it's the jealousy, it's the being too petty, it's the being vindictive. These things, even though some of us wear them as badges, like, oh, this is who I am, like I get 0 whatever's. Some of us wear them as badges, but some of these things can set us up for failure. It's when we're too impulsive, or we're too negative, or we're too overthinking. These are the things that set us up for failure in the future. Okay. So these parts of ourselves are our shadow self. It's the reason why you'll ghost someone because you got too close. It's or lie to someone, or cheat on someone, or why violence is your first choice. Your shadow self controls that. That's one of those things that, is ingrained in us based on stuff that we went through. Now, a lot of people will say that everything that we do is based on our childhood self, and I don't think it's everything. You could have had a bad relationship, or been lied to by a friend, and now all of a sudden you have trust issues, and that's recent. So not everything is based on our childhood, although a large portion of the stuff is. Fair? Okay. So very good. We want to talk about those aspects of ourselves that we try to hide, or we try to play like they don't exist, but they do. They exist. Okay. And so the first person would be like, okay, so how do you get rid of your shadow self? And the deal is, you can't get rid of your shadow self. It is what it is. You don't get rid of that person. As a matter of fact, if you take a piece of paper and you tear it long ways, okay, you can't. No, there's no way to fix that. The paper will always be torn. You could tape it, and it is still functional to a certain extent, but you cannot rid yourself of that shadow person. Once the paper has been torn, the trauma has happened, the damage has been done. You can't put that back together. It just kind of is what it is. And unfortunately, for most, it's a damaging thing. Like, trauma happens, and these traits are left as a way to kind of protect ourselves. Okay, so like a classmate telling you that you're fat. Like for me, it was that I did not realize that I was, bigger than other girls or whatnot until somebody told me, oh no, you're big. And that stuck with me for the rest of my life. So it's those types of comments, or situations like your dad not being present for you, or your mom cursing you out and calling you worthless, or you losing a grandparent, these types of things that happen to us set up emotions that kind of act as a guardian. But in reality, some of them can end up being toxic and end up ruining relationships. So that's a real thing. So shadow work is actually a process of looking through these different traits and that we consider negative and examining them to see, one, do we still need them? Because if the damage or the danger is gone, we don't still need some of these coping skills. And two, to see why it is that you do it and what can you do to counter it. Why is important. And so some people look at it and they'll just go, well, I am this, and this. And they won't try to work on it and fix it. They just go, I'm this, and this. And they won't look into why. But the difference is that the minute that you know why you do something, you can start looking for the triggers. You need to know what happened to you. You need to know what went wrong. And you need to know, why did it go south? And what was the trigger? Because it's the triggers that are going to get you in the end. I promise you. It's the triggers, okay? Shadow work is absolutely important. It's important for relationships. It's important for business. It's important for your life, because you will self-sabotage yourself in your finances or in your relationships because you don't feel like you're worthy. And that's the thing. That's a huge thing. So with that being said, okay, so let's get into some different types of situations that, we kind of talked about earlier. Somebody made the point or made the quote that the reason why we unfortunately fall through on our goals is because we're not invested in the long run as much as we're invested in what's going on right now. So that's one of the reasons why some of these relationships end up failing, is because whatever is going on right now takes huge precedent over what it is that you want in the future. So for instance, if you're panicked or upset or not functioning about something, you'll absolutely break from whatever goal it is that you were trying to accomplish and try to fix something else. So it's about 15 in an hour, and I want to go ahead and take a brief break and say, talk to you about Feature Album Friday, kind of lighten the mood here, because just listen, shadow work is a whole thing. It is, and it's a lot of negative things that go on, but it is important because healing is important. If you're not healed, your relationships are going to suffer. But Feature Album Friday, and this Friday, they're going to play nothing but Christmas music for 30 minutes straight. So starting at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, they're going to start playing Christmas music, and 30 minutes of it, and hopefully it's going to be that good stuff, not Rudolph, because we can't take a red-nosed reindeer right now, I got to tell you. And I also want to talk to you about Whisper Softly, which is it is a actual whole quiet storm type of vibration. So listen, every night but Saturday night, which of course Saturday night, of course, is Christmas, but every night but Saturday night, they play slow music from 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to midnight. So hope you guys tune in for that. It's really mellow, really easy, and something that you can kind of jump in and, change the mood of the house. I'm all about vibrations, and listen, you can change the mood of the house by just putting on some good music and vibing. So with that being said, I want to take a quick break, and thank you for joining me on the Bachelor's Radio Network. Give me about few seconds.
Do you suffer from chronic CFED or can't focus energy drain? Try over-the-counter Vibrant. One tablet contains the same caffeine as a cup of coffee, but without the calories or coffee breath. Vibrant. Caffeine, not coffee. Taking Vibrant may result in increased productivity and decreased dread in setting alarms. Unexpected enjoyment of the graveyard shift has been associated with Vibrant. Vibrant may be a better budget option than drinking coffee. It may also decrease the urge to doze off, skip work, or exhibit signs of slacking. All jokes aside, always read the label, take only as directed, and limit caffeine as it may cause real side effects. Not for children under age 12.
Hey, okay, I'm back. Thank you for joining me on the Bachelor's Radio Network. If you are just tuning in, we're talking about shadow work in healing yourself. We talked briefly before the break about your shadow self and who your shadow self is. It's all those negative traits that you have that you don't like about yourself. And I don't mean, oh, I'm fat. No, I mean the habits that you kind of produced in a set. Unfortunately, it is created different things for you. Like, for instance, if you're jealous, it can damage a relationship, things like that. So we want to talk about the healing portion. So how do you start? How do you start learning how to heal? And the first thing you would do is start with reflection. We were talking on the Bachelor News Radio Network with LA Bachelor, and he had asked, will I reflect on some things? And I wanted to make sure I was doing the right things. Reflection is very important if you're trying to grow. Reflection is absolutely important if you are trying to grow. If you have a situation where things did not go the way that you wanted it to, or a situation where it just absolutely went downhill and ran downhill fast, you want to take a moment to reflect and say, okay, well, what happened? Where was it that everything turned bad? And then try to focus in on why that happened. Was it something you said? Was it something they said? Was it something that triggered you? Could you have could you have changed the subject? Could you have stopped from going in so deep? Could you have, maybe did something different in that area? Those types of things, right? Okay, so you start with reflection. What do you want, right? Do you know that half of your wants are based on fear? So if you want to be loved, right? That's your whole goal. I want to be loved. That it's easier to identify these sabotaging habits if you know what your fears are. So I want to be loved. Okay. Well, why? Well, because I was abandoned as a kid. Okay. So when you get this love, what do you do? Well, okay. Unfortunately, if I don't feel like they love me too, I abandon them. So let me get this straight. You're quick to abandon somebody because you feel like you'll be abandoned. Well, why is that? Because I want to first avoid the pain of being disappointed and abandoned. And this, unfortunately, is a attitude of a lot of people. Like, they will hurt first. We always say this thing that hurt people. That is a reality. So that being said, definitely, like, looking at your sabotaging behaviors, I didn't have a whole lot of clothes growing up, which is why some people will overpurchase, or they'll do retail therapy and go into debt, trying to make up for that situation where they didn't have a lot of clothes. And it ends up becoming a problem. Like, if you go into debt behind clothing, that's a whole deal. Or it becomes, really ugly. Like, start hoarding. You don't want to give away stuff. Okay. So from Kendra, are wants selfish? I feel guilty sometimes in wanting and even demanding things I want in a relationship. No, it's not selfish to, now to demand might be selfish. Depends on what the demand is. So I feel like when you're in a relationship and you're with somebody and you have things that you want to talk about, or the things that are happening that are not making you feel okay, that conversation is king. The first thing you should do is absolutely have a conversation with them and let them know this thing that you're doing is hurting me. And I always do the XYZ statements. When you do X, then I feel Y and Z happens. So when you yell at me, I feel like I'm a child in my father's house and I can't love you like that. It makes me scared. You make XYZ statements, you state the behavior, you say what it does to you, and then you tell what happens because of what it does to you. Those, again, that what it does to you, that's your trigger. So when you can see those triggers, then it's easier for you to deal with the behavior or deal with the situation. And again, I always go back to this. If the person that you are with, that they're in love with you, and you tell them this is hurting me, they should at least make some effort to make moves to make that happen, to make that shift for you. Okay. Always going to tell you that. And of course, habits are hard to break. So do understand that not everybody's going to be able to instantly fix anything. But if you see them working on it, then they're giving you that piece. Okay. And I'll take up somebody working on it over somebody that just, oh yeah, girl, I'll do it and not do a thing. Actions speak louder than words. Always take the actions over the words. So let's talk about those triggers again. So half the battle of trying to get into the shadow work to get yourself to a better space where you're healing is to know your triggers. Understanding what words or feelings make you do certain things. Okay. So the other half is understanding yourself. Okay. And that's why I said you can know what your trigger is, or well, you can know what the behavior is and try to cope with that. But knowing the trigger is going to be a little easier for you to deal with. Once you know the trigger, you can kind of step in front of it before it happens. Or when you see the trigger coming, you can kind of hold on, pause. I can't have that. This is going to make me upset. Okay. So Monica says, I'm looking for my 80-20 man. Something wrong with that? I don't think so. No, not at all. Well, I mean, because, okay, so the 80-20 rule is a little different. Are you speaking 80-20 as in percentages of work ethic, or are you speaking 80-20 as in 80% of what it is that you wanted versus the 20% that you got? Because those are two different things. There are a lot of people, and that's another hot topic that we're going to get into next week about, because there are some people that do not do half and half, and they will not do half and half. And that's something that we should probably discuss and see where people's minds are, because some men are all for it. They don't want their woman to work. And some men are okay with it. So it is what it is. So definitely a lot of our triggers come from our relationships now, our current relationships. Like, for instance, if you got cheated on, your trust issues are going to be through the roof. So if you see something that looks like you about to get cheated on, you're instantly sabotaging, or you're instantly coming to a defense, or you're instantly closing up, which, I mean, as you should. But some things are reactionary too much, and you might see something that looks like it, and it isn't really. So Monica went on to say that she wants 80% of what I want and still accept 20% of the man that doesn't have what I'm looking for. Here's the thing. I want you to, there's an affirmation for that. Is that I attract, I do not chase. I do not chase, I attract. What is meant for me will come to me. Now, why do I say that? Because you attract basically what you are. So if there are some things that you have going on with yourself, you're going to attract a mate that's going to have something to do with that. So if you're not vibrating on a higher level, you're going to attract somebody right there on your level. So if you want 80% of what it is that you want, you need to be 80% of what it is that you're asking for. I know that's a weird flex, but it absolutely is true. So I have another question on the line. How do you communicate with someone effectively if they hold back their true feelings towards you? You have to ask for vulnerable. First of all, you need to ask yourself, are you creating a safe space? Because we talked about that a couple of sessions ago. Safe spaces are important. If they do not feel safe with you, they're not going to let you in. There's nothing you can do about that. You have to make them feel safe. You have to get vulnerable enough to show them where you are and to try and help them show you where they are. But you need to make sure there's a safe space. And one thing that will totally throw that into the trash is if anytime that you come into a conversation and you bring up something that they asked you not to talk about it, you have instantly violated the safe space and they're no longer feeling safe with you. So do not weaponize the things that they tell you. And absolutely that will help you break through to get the information that you need so that you can make the best decisions for the relationship. So 100% across the board, make sure you are creating a safe space. Okay. So basically, now that we know that our sabotage, our shadow work, if we don't get into that shadow work and we don't get into a space where we're working on ourselves, that we're setting ourselves up for disaster, it absolutely is a thing. It absolutely is a thing. You have to work on yourself. You have to start healing. You have to start looking at your triggers. So if you snap off at your mate, you understand why, and then you can go back and fix it. That's a reality, because you can't just wobble around. You'll absolutely make it a problem. Okay, so Jonathan said, you sound like you and your audience are looking for the perfect man based on the hunt. No. And we were talking about shadow work, I thought, on the show, but no, the perfect man, no. There is no such thing as a perfect man, just like there's no such thing as a perfect woman. You get what you align with. So if you're in low vibrations, that's exactly what you're going to attract. So is that now, some women might have unrealistic expectations. Now, in this audience, I try to cater to both male and female, so I do not do gender on this one. I try to pick topics that are for everybody. For instance, I mean, there are a lot of men that have been really, really hurt by a lot of females, and they need this information just as much as the females need it to heal and to move forward. So I really feel like there is a space where we can get together and we can heal, right? Okay. So here's another question. How do you know he is genuinely into you? I am one of those people, actions speak louder than words. Actions absolutely speak louder than words. And that's something we're going to have to, that's a whole show, because there is a difference between somebody that's into you and trying to work to be that mate for you and somebody that is love bombing you. And that is an important thing that I really need to make sure that you understand, is that absolutely there is a difference between somebody that's showing up for you or somebody that's love bombing you. And that, again, goes both ways, men and female. There are more male narcissists that are unfortunately, there are some male narcissists that are unfortunately, female narcissists that there are more male narcissists than there are female narcissists, and that's an issue. But because the nature of the situation is narcissists don't get help. They don't believe anything is wrong with them, and that's why it's tricky. That's why there's more male than there are female, because females will go, this isn't right, I need to fix this. Most of them, not all of them. And Jonathan, I'm sorry to hear that you were very hurt, brother, but definitely tune into the show, because we talk about different things to kind of make yourself feel like you are loved and worthy of love, because you are worthy of love. There is somebody for everybody, including you. So unfortunately, that is my time. I am on the bare bones of my time. I'm probably going over. So I'm going to wish you guys love and hope you tune in next week. We will talk more about shadow work and what to do with our relationships. Have a good night, guys. Peace.